Hi everyone, I'm here with Kate Watts and we're talking recruiter enablement. So Kate, Watts is a good Scottish name, by the way. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Really? Didn't know
Oh
that.
yeah,
My
Watts is
my ancestors are from Yorkshire, so a little bit, yeah, close enough, I suppose.
I think before that they might be from a bit further north, to be
Quite
honest.
possibly.
So thank you for joining me. Give us a quick introduction to you.
Well, thanks, Adam, and thanks for having me here. So pretty much my name is Kate. I live in a sleepy city, quite small, called Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. I've been in recruitment since 2008. Most specifically on the agency side of things. At one time quite specialized and now a little bit more generalist. I'm currently a talent solutions team lead at EOH, where I look after recruitment in the coastal provinces. And I've got some lovely teams underneath me with some superb people at the moment. And yeah, very interested in what you've been doing and then the topics that have come up so far.
So you might describe it as a sleepy place where you live, but I bet it's full of rugby teams that could thrash most of ours.
Oh, I don't know about Maritzburg so much. Maybe Durban, but
Right.
yeah, no, there's we watching the World Cup quite closely.
Yes, well, we've got Scotland and South Africa, Scotland against South Africa in the same group. So what's recruiter enablement to you?
Okay, so I kind of look at it, to steal from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as a bit of a pyramid. So in that bottom layer, we've got all of the foundational stuff. A really good ATS, strong branding, strong marketing, the right tools to do your job. And then sort of one level above that, we've got where we sort of enable the consultants with good education, good training. But that still doesn't take us to the top of the pyramid. And I think you responded to a LinkedIn post or comment that I made about recruitment being a bit of a black sheep profession, especially in terms of agency recruitment. And that's sort of because traditionally the barrier to entry to recruitment has been quite low. I know for me, when I finished my undergraduate degree, I thought I was going to be a scientist, and that didn't work out, and I was devastated. And then I fell into recruitment, as a lot of us do. It wasn't that we were at school and thought, hey, I want to be a recruiter. And I think that's given recruitment a little bit of a bad name. And at one point I was sitting negotiating a fee with a client, and I was looking at this fee and I thought to myself, am I actually worth this? Is the value that I'm adding in this process worth 15% or 18% of whatever this person's earning, anything like that? And I don't want anyone to ever feel like that, like they can't distill the value. And that for me is the next step in the pyramid. So you've got that solid foundation of tools and tech stacks. But the next side is actually what I'd like to call recruiter empowerment,
Yes.
where we actually being able to distill and articulate the value that we add outside of the transactional process of recruitment. And I think that for me is something that hasn't been touched upon too much, to actually be able to equip consultants and recruiters on both sides, agency and sort of internal TA teams, to really understand the value that they're adding.
Yeah.
And definitely not just in the process that's transactional. And I know at a recent graduation ceremony that I was at, Bettina Schaller from the World Employment Confederation was just talking about the impact that recruitment has on world economies. If we don't have the right people in the right place at the right time, entire economies are affected. And I think a lot of us work quite in an isolated way outside of this awesome community that I've become part of, and which has changed my mindset so much. And we don't realize that what we do is a lot bigger than us. And for me, I'd like to see the change through empowerment, where recruiters are seeing it as more than just a job and not being afraid to get some assistance to distill the value that they can add, and really, really be a part of the community on a bigger scale.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very important and interesting point, and not one I'd really thought about an awful lot. So the articulating the value in what you're doing, I think this is just as relevant for internal as it is for external, by the way, because internal recruiters get trampled on in every direction. Anytime something goes wrong, it's their fault.
It's sort of a use and
Whether
abuse situation in many cases.
it is, and it does extend to the internal recruiters as well. One of the problems that we have in recruitment, one of the good things and the problems is, it's very high profile, because everybody's been a candidate and many people have also been hiring managers as well. But the downside of that is, it from the outside, if you don't understand all the nuances, it looks as if it's easy when it's very, very far from easy. And so I think educating candidates and educating hiring managers on what all the different things that go into that recruitment process is something that would enable recruiters to exert their ability to take a bit more control over a process and to achieve more influence. And I remember training that I did back at the very beginning in recruitment in 1999 with a guy called Abid Hamid, who is still in the industry, and he went through all of the different steps that a piece of recruitment takes. I was very early in my career, and I was listening to it mesmerized because I couldn't think about, I hadn't realized how complex it really was. And that was in 1999. It's far more complex now today,
with all the tech stuff that we have to work with as well, and reporting and tracking, and all of the peripheral stuff as well.
Exactly. And I agree with your point around Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how we should think about it as, like, here's the foundational stuff. They just can't do their job if they don't have this. Here's the things that make them better, and here's the things that help them to really stand out. So beyond that, are there, like, let's talk about some tactical things as well. Like, are there things that you've put in place or your company has, or you've seen that you would recommend, which are to do with giving people the right type of tools or the right type of content or things like that?
I think a lot of it comes from, and we've started doing that now, is opening the conversation on both sides. So us as a company, as a group company, and giving access to the managers, and also an understanding of the values of each company. So it's going to look different for everybody, but we've got to have those conversations and that access. Without that, you're almost sort of working blindly, and you can't distill or articulate a value unless you've given some guidance by management. You can't create it out of thin air, and you want everybody to be on the same page. There's got to be some way of standardizing it. So I know it's not something that's easily measurable empirically. I mean, how do we assess if someone's fully empowered? Apart from end stage revenue, which doesn't really help us. But I think starting out those conversations with management are so important. So whether it's with the hiring manager or on the agency side, with the managers there and the people who define the company culture and the processes and things like that, we can't work in isolation. And I know one of your guests showed how they sort of have enabled their recruiters to be able to connect with each other, to understand things like that. And that was super exciting for me, because I'd love to see that on a bigger scale, where management's involved as well, so that they're cognizant of what we do and what we have to go through. Because at the moment, I think we're sort of working a bit on the side, and we really need to be part of the bigger picture. And I think that's one way, is to open that door and get the conversations going.
I wonder if this has all been actually more exacerbated in the agency side than it has in in-house, because I think about my time in recruitment agency world, and everybody's kind of, let's call it, everybody's desk is like their own mini business.
That's exactly it.
That creates artificial silos, and not quite silos, but you just kind of you're naturally focused on yourself.
Your stuff. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I think we've also always been taught, apart from being in your own company on the agency side, to engage with recruiters outside of your business has been an absolute no-no, because they're competitors. And that's why it's been wonderful. Vanessa Roth's community that she's set up here in South Africa has been great, because she's found a way to bring us all together without it interfering in business. And I think those kind of things are key, because you suddenly have access to so much more knowledge, and you can share pain points and strategize and, workshop how to get through these things, rather than just being in your funnel. So I think those kind of things are super important.
I agree more.
It's been brilliant. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
The same with you and Hung Lee. Just globally now getting those conversations going. The picture just gets bigger and bigger and more exciting. You know, and I think it's a wonderful thing and a wonderful way for recruiters to empower themselves by listening to those kind of things and you know, being able to ask more questions and say, hey, why don't we have this? How can we implement this? You know, like you say, taking ownership of it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and you're right about like when I started in recruitment. Absolutely, you weren't encouraged to interact with people in other recruitment businesses because they were the competition. And I will eat my hat if there is any type of a network of people working in recruitment agency world in Scotland where people get together. I just don't believe that happens.
So we're quite unique here, and very lucky.
I mean, I think it. Oh no, I mean, I think it certainly happens in other bigger markets, like in London and places like that. Absolutely, but there's only 5 million people in the whole of Scotland, and I don't think they interact at all. I mean, it happens in the in-house space a little bit, but in the agency space, I very much doubt it happens. Anyway, Kate, look, I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you very much. I think there's quite a lot of other things that we could cover, actually. So hopefully we'll be able to get together again in a few months' time and talk about some other aspects of this. But thank you very much for your time today. And
thanks, Adam.
great
Thanks
to
for
talk to
having
you.
me. Awesome.